It's Psychic Fix. This video will show if you, your child or children is at risk of ADHD. Let's examine. Who's at risk from ADHD? As humans, there is always a tendency for us to worry about certain things in life, especially those that have to do with our health and family. It is not uncommon to hear people ask, "Am I at risk of," or "Is this hereditary?" The coronavirus pandemic is one case that clearly showed us how worried, and maybe paranoid for some people, when it comes to our health. Such situations leave a lasting question on our lips: am I at risk? This same question is one many have asked when the discussion of ADHD comes up. Parents, children, educators and the society have at large considered this as an important conversation at different times in history. As there continue to be new findings and breakthrough in medicine, even medical practitioners have had to change their perspective on how they see ADHD. For you watching this video, wondering if you are at risk from ADHD, please stay tuned till the end and you will find many interesting facts about ADHD. For anyone to understand who is at risk from ADHD, there is a need to understand the role genetics, the environment, parenting practices play in relation to ADHD. While many had been to find their answer from sociocultural and ethnoreligious beliefs, the answers we seek lie far from them. Gladly, you will find some of them in this video. Firstly, we all need to understand that ADHD is not a disease or infection that can be contracted or spread from one person to another. This is very important to know, as some people have created a stereotype around this affecting the way they perceive and relate with people with ADHD. Another thing you need to know is that ADHD is a neurological disorder. It is not something that can be sexually transmitted or passed from one person to another through handshake or close contact. In case you have been wondering if you are at any health risk working, schooling or living with someone with ADHD, please know that there is none so far medically proven that could make you have ADHD. In order to better understand the risk factors for developing ADHD, here are a number of factors to consider. 1. Genetics. Scientific evidence has strongly proven that a person's genes can influence ADHD. Some researchers has shown that ADHD runs in families and as such been found to affect close relatives with people living with ADHD. In essence, a person is more likely to have ADHD if any of his/her parents have ADHD. 2. Demographics. Some people have suggested that a particular group of people are more likely to have ADHD than others. One major selection they make is that based on gender, that one gender is more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than the other. While the argument continues, many have been led to believe that boys are more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than girls, while some argue otherwise. Are you a parent wondering what children are more likely to develop ADHD? Boy or girl? Please know that research has indicated that ADHD is a universal disorder. In other words, it is not a disorder particular to any particular gender, race, religion, ethnic group or economic class. 3. Environment. Environmental factor put me or my family at risk of developing ADHD? This has been a question of concern to many. Truth be told, this question is as controversial as it gets, as recent findings have in some way pointed to the possibility of environment being implicated in a person developing ADHD. For the sake of clarity, CDC believes that the strongest link between the environment and ADHD occurs before a child is born. In essence, prenatal exposure could pose possible risk factors that can be associated with ADHD. Some researchers are of the opinion that even while in the womb, children who are exposed to alcohol and drugs are more likely to have ADHD. Some professionals have argued that exposure to pesticides has a strong implication in the development of ADHD. Some others believe that exposure to certain neurotoxic chemicals like lead in children may also play a role in ADHD. This being said, it is important that you take into cognizance certain environmental factors that have been implicated to be associated in ADHD. 4. Injury. You will agree that certain injuries have more effect than others. The way you will feel if a needle pricks your finger is different from the way you feel if you step on a sharp nail. One injury which is very delicate and dangerous is injuries to the head. Research has it that children who suffer head injuries are more likely to develop ADHD. 5. Parenting style. This is very debatable as some studies have shown certain parental behaviors that are consistent among families with ADHD kids. However, no proven evidence has been able to clearly point out how parenting style can lead to something that is a neurological disorder. It still remains unclear as to how parenting style can produce an ADHD child or cause a child to develop ADHD. The only substantial conclusions some studies have made is that poor parenting styles could potentially worsen the symptoms of ADHD in kids. As you have learned in this video, some of the factors are associated with ADHD. We would also like you to know the truth behind some popular myths that have been formed around who is at risk of ADHD. While some factors may have been found to worsen ADHD symptoms, it is not enough to say that these factors directly cause ADHD. Some of the factors confused to have put a person at risk of ADHD include I. Playing video games and watching TV. E. Excessive intake of sugar. E. Poverty. Please know that these are only myths and no scientific research or evidence has proven them to cause ADHD. Hope this video was helpful.